Hello! So today we are taking a look at the Carenado Piper Arrow III in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So this kind of completes the set of Carenado aircraft for me, because I tried out many of the others recently, but I just saw this one this afternoon and it was very reasonably priced in the marketplace for Flight Simulator. It was about £16. So I thought, why not? Let's go and have a look. So I've already seen the Just Flight Arrow in the past. I've got it somewhere on my hard drive and I just haven't had it installed for a while. I understand they might be a little bit broken at the moment following Sim Update 11. But anyway, here we are with the Carenado Piper Arrow III. So I guess this is in juxtaposition to the Bonanza, the black square Bonanza that came out yesterday for Flight Simulator, which obviously is in a different realm entirely in terms of the level of its systems modelling. So this is a Carenado aircraft, unashamedly. So it's not going to be as complicated or as in-depth in its modelling of the systems, but that's absolutely fine, because not everybody wants to have to learn absolutely everything to go fly an aeroplane in a flight simulator. So we're going to take it at face value, take it for a flight, and ask ourselves, is this fun? And I think the answer is going to be a resounding yes. Okay, so we're at Alderney, by the way, so I'm using the boundless Alderney scenery, which again is very good value. You can get it from any builds, I believe, or directly from them. So if I go and jump inside the aircraft, so in common with all Carenado aircraft, it's really, really nicely modelled throughout. It's very high resolution. The structures, the 3D structures, just look photographic almost. It's quite stunning, really. Okay, so how do we get this thing started? So you can see down there underneath the yoke, the fuel selector is on the left tank already. So in common with most low-wing GA aircraft, the fuel tanks are in the wings. You can see the fuel cap over there. So you do need to pay attention. There is, you'd have to flick between left and right tanks to keep the aircraft balanced during a longer flight. Okay, we can remove the yokes as per normal in Flight Sim by clicking on the base of the yoke. Let's go and move the mixture to rich. Propeller's already on high RPM. We need to go, and the recognition light was already on, but we'll go and turn the battery master on. Obviously that will make the recognition light come on. So you can see that if we look at the top of the tail, you can see it flashing away there. If we go and turn the nav lights on as well, you should see, yep, they're lit up on the end of the wings now, which is great. Turn the fuel pump on. Turn the ignition over, so turn the key round to both magnetos and then on to start and hold it there. Engine comes up even though we've got the throttle at idle, so it's like I said, the Carenados maybe aren't the most realistic, and again I could have started it without the fuel pump even. So while we're sat here at tick over, just letting the engine warm itself up, or pretending to let the engine warm itself up, we'll go and switch on now the radio master switch. We'll turn the alternator on as well, and we'll wait for the GPSs to boot up. We'll put the transponder on standby. So let's have a quick look around at the instruments you get in this aircraft. We can put the yoke back in place now. So we get ADF over here. We've got nav2 instrument. We've got the clock, indicated airspeed, turn coordinator, HSI for nav1, attitude indicator, altimeter, vertical speed indicator, manifold pressure, and it's both manifold and fuel pressure. Also we've got RPM and exhaust gas temperature and fuel obviously, and oil pressures and amperage just down there behind the yoke. Okay, so the GPSs are booted up. They're asking to align to satellites, so we'll let that happen. So in common with lots and lots of Carenado aircraft, the sound modelling is wonderful. So if we just open the engine up while we're on the parking brake, it's very, very nice, isn't it? Okay, so GPS has lit up. We're not actually going to program anything into the GPS. We're just going to have it there as a nice visual reference while we're flying around. So let's go and taxi out to the runway, and then we can have a think about what we're going to do. So this scenery of Alderney is very, very good, it has to be said. So you can see we're going to have a crosswind. There's the windsock is perpendicular to the runway direction. We're going to come out mid-runway, so I'm going to turn right and then track back down the runway and turn around to take off. So there's a hump there as you come out onto the runway, which is fun. You can see the runway here is quite bumpy, which presents its own challenges, particularly on landing. So if you do overshoot the landing markers here, you hit this bump and it's liable to throw you back into the air, so it's worth just knowing about that in advance. So you need to be quite assured in your landing at Alderney for that particular reason, especially on a windy day like today. So we'll just taxi. There's a bit of off camber here as well, look, that's been modelled. It's quite nice. So let's just whiz the aeroplane round. Thankfully the Piper is very easy to turn. Okay, so get the parking brake back on for a moment. So we're going to go and put the landing lights on now, and the strobes on, and the pitot heat on, and we should be good to go. Parking brake off, opening the engine up, flaps to takeoff position. So full throttle in a Carenado will not damage the engine, so we're going to take advantage of that. So I'm using quite a lot of right rudder to hold the centre line, and the plane is starting to fly, but you can see that turbulence and bumpy ground is... You need to be careful. But it handles wonderfully, has to be said. So let's have a look outside. So, gear up. And start moving the flaps up. Jump back inside. So the default view position is very good for visibility. You don't get the ceiling in the way in this aircraft, which is nice. So just banking around to the left. We'll go out over the bay here and do some manoeuvres. So there is a VOR station over at Guernsey. So if we tune the VOR here to 109.40, we'll be able to have a play and make sure the radio works. I think it's 109.40, we'll find out, won't we? So if I switch that over, we change this to VLOC. Has it picked it up? I may have the frequency wrong. Let's go and have a quick look on the map. I'm still hand flying at the moment, so 109.40. You would have thought that would have picked that up. Let's have a play with the autopilot while we're doing this. So I'm just trimming the plane out to fly level. Let's cut the engine back. So autopilot master on. So this will just be doing pitch and roll hold by default. So heading will make us start turning left, and there it goes. So we will say, please take us west. Yeah, this has woken up now. So let's find out the direction to Guernsey using the VOR signal. So if we wanted to fly to Guernsey, we'd be flying about 220 degrees. So we could match that with our heading. So just out of interest, let's take ourselves off to one side and then see if it will intercept automatically. So if I go to nav mode, so we are flying away, so let's see if it will handle that. So nav mode, go altitude hold as well while we're at it. Pull the throttle back a bit further. Pull the mixture back. The propeller back and the mixture back. So it is, yes, it's turning back in and intercepting automatically. So it's always a bit of a experimentation required with different aircraft. Some of them will do the trick this one just did. Some of them won't. So this one is very, very forgiving in that once you go to nav mode, it will make the turn back towards the track even if you are flying away from the track. Not all aircraft do that. So what modes do we get on the autopilot? We get nav mode, approach mode, back course, which reverse means back course. So that's using the opposite of the ILS frequency to land on the opposite runway if the airfield supports it. Altitude hold, vertical speed mode. And we've got a vertical speed knob over here. So say we went for vertical speed mode. And then we could say, I want to climb please at 500 feet a minute. Obviously this doesn't handle captured altitudes, it hasn't got an altitude pre-selector anywhere, which is fine. So you can obviously just set your climb rate and let it carry on until you're happy with it basically. So you can see we are now flying back across the track of the runway. Okay, I'm going to come back off the autopilot now. We've confirmed that it kind of works. You know, it does what we'd expect. Let's go and turn back around. Let's get some speed up. And we'll try a stall. It's a nice day for a liner to be out there. They're probably being thrown all over the place with the weather. Okay, so engine back to 50%. If we go any further, we'll get a klaxon because of the gear not being down. So I'm going to pull the nose up quite significantly, and let's just watch what happens. So almost at full backstick, and it's dropped the left wing. Just hold it in, see what happens, and we have a full spin. And it's not going to get out, I don't think. Nope. So you can crash this aircraft. So I'm going to cheat to get out of it. I've pressed Y, which obviously stops the momentum. So be careful. If you hold it as it rotates, you will get into an unrecoverable spin. Still trying to stall now, but we're fine. We've got full throttle. And there's the airfield. So we will do an about turn. So we're going downwind at the moment, remember. The wind is behind us at the moment. So we will turn into the airfield. So we're doing about 80 knots at the moment. So gear down. Flaps down. Beginning of flaps down. First stage. And let's see how this behaves on an approach. So here comes the airfield. So remember I said we'll just do a touch and go for this first one, then we'll do a circuit and come in properly. So engine is at idle. What's happening with the speed? So let's go for full flaps. We're now a bit high, but remember what we said about that landing area. And we're down. And the wind is really pushing us. It's gusting quite heavily today. open, so gear up. Let's push this absolutely up to the limit. It's very good performance if you do push it right out to the limit. So let's just circuit around over the new town in Alderney, and then we'll come back in. It's quite rare to find an aircraft, especially from Carenado, that you can get into an unrecoverable spin. I wasn't expecting that. Normally, as soon as they start spinning, you just let go and they recover themselves, but this one doesn't, which is quite good in a way, because it makes you have that much more respect. That was the sound of the warning that the gear wasn't down. Okay, so let's see how it behaves in a side slip as well. So let's turn into the wind for the side slip. Whoa, look at that fall. Let's come back towards the runway. That was cool. Obviously we're being aided and abetted by the wind, but that was very cool. Notice it sinks when you get to below about 80 knots. It starts to sink quite dramatically. There's that lump in the runway that we were worried about. Okay. So let's backtrack back towards the airfield buildings. So there you go, the Carenado Piper Arrow III in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's been out for a long time, but it just does what you tell it to do basically, unless you get into an unrecoverable spin, of course. I really enjoyed it. It's very good value, so if you're looking for this kind of aeroplane and you haven't made your mind up yet, it's worth having a think about. Because like I said, it's nicely modelled and it's predictable. The modes available to you in the avionics work, and it's very forgiving in terms of it capturing the track. And it's had an upgrade of sorts, because it's got the new version of the Garmin GNS 430 in it, which has lots of extra functionality that it wouldn't have had when this aircraft first came out. Should we go and see if we can get the wings in between these two guys without knocking them over? Ooh, just. So there you go. Parking brake on. Pull the mixture. Lights off. Pitot heat off. Alternator off. Avionics off. And I think we're pretty much there, aren't we? Obviously in the real world you would then go and cut the fuel, which they have not done in the aircraft. By default it starts with the fuel already enabled. But anyway, there you go. Obviously it's Carenado, so you're going to get, I've not tried this yet, you're going to get niceties like the doors opening and being able to move the camera through them using the keyboard and have a look around it as you normally would. It's very nice, isn't it? It's nicely modelled. There's a little bit of glitching with the glass, but that's very, very common in Flight Simulator, so I'm not going to go too mad about that. I can press Alt and Alt and the keys, and they've even got the engine model look through the cowl, and it's very, very nicely done. So yeah, top marks to Carenado for a basic low-wing GA aircraft that's really nicely done in the simulator. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Please do subscribe, like, and join the channel, whatever you do in YouTube. I'm not an expert at these things. I just put the videos out. See you again soon.